Hi crypto friends, I'm Maria Wojciak, a crypto journalist and also an MC at Blockchain Cruise 2019. I also was visiting Blockchain Cruise 2018. At that time I was working in one crypto media, and during that cruise I interviewed John McAfee, Bobby Lee and Charlie Lee. An interview with Charlie Lee has never been published, so 1 year has passed. But for me it's interesting to look from the retrospective and to see what at that time Charlie Lee answered me about Litecoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and what does he think where Litecoin is heading, because as we know soon we will experience Litecoin halving. So what was a year ago Charlie Lee was expecting? Let's have a look. We were interviewing Charlie Lee, founder of Litecoin. Charlie Lee, hi.
Hey.
So today you were talking at the conference at Blockchain Cruise about the intrinsic value of cryptocurrencies. And what actually got me interested, you started from Bitcoin. Why Litecoin was not the first? Why it's like you positioned Litecoin the second one? I mean, why you started from Bitcoin, not from Litecoin?
Well, I found out Bitcoin in 2011. So when I created Litecoin, I already knew about Bitcoin. It's a fork of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I actually created it for fun, just playing around with it. But I set out to create silver to Bitcoin's gold. Mm-hmm. So I saw Bitcoin as digital gold, and I've seen in history where people have used gold and silver as money, and I figured we need a digital silver to complement digital gold. So that's how I came up with the idea of creating Bitcoin.
There also you mentioned about, you compared Ethereum, Bitcoin and Litecoin. What do you think truly about Ethereum?
What do I think?
I mean,
what I think about
mentioned
Ethereum? Yeah.
It's kind of not a cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it's not, to me it's not sound money. So I feel like Bitcoin and Litecoin are sound money. So some important aspects of sound money is that it's money that you can spend without being censored. It's money that cannot be reversed once you send something. It cannot be taken away. It cannot be counterfeited, and it cannot be devalued. Right? So fiat currency is not sound money. Fiat currency can be devalued. The government can decide to print more, causing each of your dollar to, or whatever fiat currency you use, to be worth less, and that's something you can't stop. Whereas with gold, silver, Bitcoin, Litecoin, the supply is fixed, so you can't just create Bitcoin, Litecoin out of thin air, and that's really important properties of sound money. Also, you can't censor the Bitcoin, Litecoin transactions, and you can't reverse them. So with Ethereum, I see Ethereum more as like a smart contract platform, with Ether being used as gas. Ethereum network has already been, transactions have been censored. We had a DAO hard fork where people decided to reverse the transaction. So there's already setting a precedence that it can be controlled by a small group of people. Ethereum also is going to move to proof of stake, so which would mean that it becomes cheap to create new Ether, and also Ethereum community or developers and foundation has decided recently to reduce the block reward from 3 Ether to 2 Ether, and things like that changes the money supply, and that just means that the money supply is controlled by some people, and I don't have a say, so it's not sound money to me, right? Instead of the Federal Reserve controlling the money supply of the US dollar, we have the Ethereum Foundation effectively controlling the money supply of Ether. So to me that's not real sound money, but it still could be very useful as a smart contract platform, right? So Ether is, to many it's like gas, right? If Bitcoin is gold, Ether is gas. Gas is not money like gold, right? You'll use it to refill your car if you run out of gas, but you won't keep a barrel of gasoline in your garage, right? You're not invested in it, right? You don't treat it as sound money, as money. You treat it as a utility, useful thing.
When do you think Ethereum, and if Ethereum will hit zero?
I don't think Ethereum will hit zero. I think there's always I think Ethereum has a use case. There's a need for a decentralized smart contract platform. There may not be that many use cases, but there are use cases for it. I mean, ICOs are the killer app for Ethereum right now, and that's a real use case. I personally don't like ICOs. I don't invest in them, but there's obviously a need and there's demand for it. So there's a use case for a decentralized application platform. So I don't think the price of Ether will ever hit zero.
And in 2018, this year, you mentioned that you regret that you sold all of your Litecoins. Is it true?
I don't regret selling all my Litecoins. I think the thing is, it's unfortunate that the price has dropped so much. Like I did when I sold it because I wanted to remove myself from having conflict of interest between working towards Litecoin adoption versus working towards the price going up. Right, the adoption and price going up doesn't correlate 1-to-1. Like this year, adoption, there's a lot of Bitcoin and Litecoin adoption, but the price has dropped tremendously. So if I focus on price, it would be like it was a very bad year for me. But in reality, it's a very good year. Litecoin has had a lot of adoption. So.
And you also mentioned about this in a tweet that you were trying so hard to make Litecoin price at $400. But still, and a lot of now enterprises are using Litecoin as a payment method, but still the price doesn't go up. Why? Why do you think so?
It's not that the price isn't that important. It's important if you're invested in it, but in terms of usage, the price doesn't matter that much in terms of daily use. So I kind of don't want to talk about price. It is what it is, and long term wise, I think the Litecoin will do well, and I'm focused on adoption, and that's kind of why I didn't want to have this conflict between adoption versus price.
Still, there were news that you were thinking about buying some Litecoins back.
No, there never was this case. I mean, I sold because I wanted to remove the conflict of interest. So I never had the intention of buying it back. If I bought it back, then it would defeat the whole purpose of selling in the first place. I'm not here to gamble or to invest or speculate on Litecoin price. I'm still working full time on Litecoin harder than ever to help Litecoin be adopted.
Previously, you were a poker player, so there you gambled, but here you would not want to do this.
Yeah. I actually would disagree. I think poker is not gambling. Poker is a game of skill. So I don't like to gamble. I gamble very small amount, right? If I go to a casino, I play a little bit of craps just for fun. It's like a fun thing, but I know it's a losing proposition. Whereas with poker, it's a game of skill, so it's not really gambling. I do enjoy playing poker.
You said it before, during the presentation, still, like, it's a skillful game.
Yes.
There's no luck.
There is luck, but it's mostly skill, right? So like tennis is mostly skill, but there's some luck, right? You can accidentally step on a rock or hit the ball in a weird way, bounce, right? But it's mostly skill. It's similar to poker. In the long run, if you're good at poker, you win money. But at one sitting, you could lose money.
When was your last win range? Win range. If I'm not mistaken, how it's proper to say in game of poker? Win rate. When was your last win rate?
I don't play poker that much. I don't play poker that much. When I visit Las Vegas, I'll play some poker. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. I think I win more than I lose, but it's a small amount.
Do you play it with your brother?
I have played with him. Yes.
Who usually wins?
I don't remember, to be honest. I think I'm a better player, but I haven't played in a while, so maybe he's caught up. But if you ask him, maybe he thinks he's a better player. I don't know.
Okay, talking about the game, today it was interesting, the question from the moderator of the panel that Satoshi Nakamoto was also a poker player. So it's not the first time, I believe, they're people just have they provide hints that you might be Satoshi Nakamoto. How do you feel about that? And are you?
I feel
Satoshi
honored
Nakamoto?
that people would think I'm Satoshi Nakamoto.
Because still
but
you were talking about you're so fond of Bitcoin.
yeah.
So this is like this is something you really like. This is something you wanna for mass adoption.
Yeah.
So probably your image is similar to the image of Satoshi Nakamoto. What do you think of that?
I think Satoshi Nakamoto is a lot smarter than I am. So I'm honored that people think that I may be. I'm nowhere near Satoshi Nakamoto. I think that if it would be very dumb for the Satoshi Nakamoto to come out and create Litecoin, right? He was a very private person. He hid his identity very well, and he's disappeared. So
But on the other hand, it would be like really nice for you now to tell I'm not Satoshi Nakamoto. I'm doing other thing.
No, yeah.
So it's nice coverage actually.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, but
I heard it
I know
like-
I'm not Satoshi Nakamoto.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so
Because
I
I've
can
heard
tell
it-
you for a fact that I'm not. And yeah, it's neat that Satoshi Nakamoto also liked poker, but it's not surprising because smart people like game theory, right? Bitcoin is all about game theory, and poker has a lot of game theory in it. So it's kind of there's some synergy between people who like Bitcoin and people who like poker. And poker also, with the censorship resistance of Bitcoin as money, poker is kind of banned from U.S. citizens from playing right now. But you could kind of route around that by using Bitcoin to play on some online poker sites using Bitcoin.
Recently, there were very few updates in Litecoin repository, and a lot of in the community of Litecoin they are concerned. What could you tell them now?
It's a misunderstanding. So Litecoin, we don't work on the master repository. So most people don't understand how GitHub works, where we work on a branch, and then when we release final version, we will merge that into the master. So the master would have like months of nothing on it because we're working on a separate branch. So if people who are just looking at master will say, hey, there's no work being done on it for the last 4 months. But in reality, we've been working on it for the last 4 months. We actually just released a new version, 0.16.2, which we've been working on. And after the release, we'll merge that code into master. And when that happens, all of a sudden you'll see, hey, there is actually work being done. It was just kind of delayed. So we are working on Litecoin on the code. So there's no, it's kind of fake news.
So this is like a short time plan. What about long time plan for Litecoin? You've said that you hope it will be okay. You know it will be okay.
Okay, in terms of?
In terms of prosperity.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm working really hard towards adoption, like mass adoption. Right? So I want people worldwide to use Bitcoin, Litecoin, and use the sound money as real world currency. So we're kind of a long ways from that. A lot of people in the space are speculating on the price. They're not really using Bitcoin, Litecoin as money. So I'm pushing for adoption in terms of like paying with Litecoin for merchants to accept Litecoin, and obviously Bitcoin. I think they both work hand in hand. And with Lightning Network, it makes it easier to. It helps Bitcoin and Litecoin scale, and it really makes payments. Makes a lot of sense for payments to be on Lightning Network than to be on chain.
And also, as you mentioned today, that the adoption, the integration of SegWit will help to disrupt ASIC booth.
Yeah, it's kind of a complicated topic. So, ASIC boost is a trick someone figured out and patented a few years ago. It's a trick to make it so that you can create miners that uses 15% less energy, and 15% less energy actually turns into a lot more money because the margins are already razor thin. So if a miner can spend 15% less in amount of money they spend on energy, actually increases their profitability significantly. So last year, people realized that miners had ASIC boost in them, and they could potentially be using ASIC boost in a covert way where people can't tell that they're using ASIC boost. The problem with ASIC boost is that it conflicts with SegWit. It also incentivizes miners to keep blocks small. So we've seen a lot of like empty blocks from Antpool. We've seen Jihan of Antminer come out against SegWit. And since he has so much power, he managed to convince a lot of people to come out against SegWit. And it's unclear whether that's because of ASIC boost or not. A lot of people think it is. So it's bad incentive to hurt Bitcoin's upgrade because of miner being greedy. Right? So last year I pushed to get SegWit on Litecoin. It took a lot of work to convince the miners, because miners are against it on Bitcoin, but if they're for it on Litecoin, they can't explain why they're against it for Bitcoin. So eventually I managed to convince them. We got SegWit on Litecoin and Lightning Network, and that helped remove some of the fake news about the fear about SegWit on Bitcoin and Lightning Network. So eventually the users came together to help push that through, and SegWit activated on Bitcoin, and now Lightning Network it is possible because Lightning Network requires the SegWit upgrade.
May you perhaps announce some additional updates on Litecoin in the nearest future?
Yeah, so I have the Litecoin Summit coming up next week in San Francisco, so potentially I might announce something then. But there's still a lot of work to be done. I think there's a lot of work to be done on Lightning Network to make it easy to use. There's a lot coming. Yeah.
And when we will hear it, as you mentioned, at the conference?
Potentially at Litecoin Summit. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Today we interviewed Charlie Lee, founder of Litecoin. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.